It was the time before Christmas, and all throughout the land, nobody was rejoicing. Tough times were at hand. The great nation of Israel, fallen from glory, in defeat and despair, silently mourning. Chaos and misery has come upon the nation. No leader, no king, and constantly under invasion. New rules, new customs, a new culture to follow. The Israelite identity has become entirely hollow. It's been 400 years since they had a true prophet. Malachi died and they buried the coffin. Since then it's been silence, no notes to be heard. 400 years since they heard from the Lord. Let's start at the beginning, 400 BC. Israel wasn't free, but they had a gracious king. Under Persian rule, they were given liberties, freedom. Keep your land and religion, just pay taxes to the kingdom. It was during this period that Malachi and Ezra lived. During this time, the temple of the Lord was rebuilt. Eventually, the prophets died. It wasn't much of a wait before another invasion, and the times became not so great. The times were not great, but Alexander was. Alexander the Great invaded Israel because that's what Alexander does. It is 330 BC. Israel is once again captive. This time, the oppressor isn't quite as attractive. At first, Macedonia let the Jews live their lives, but with time, the rule became either adapt or you die. This meant adapting to a new culture, a new language, and religion. Naturally, some of the Jews weren't inclined to listen. The temple was ransacked, the scriptures destroyed. King Antiochus IV forced Jews to worship Greek gods. Some refused, others didn't, and welcomed the change. Soon, speaking Greek as a Jew wasn't anything strange. Over the next 160 years, Israel became Hellenized and in every way Greek. Greek religion, Greek education, philosophy, and language. The loss of a culture was imminent unless something was changing. 160 BC, and finally comes a period of brief relief. Mattathias fought off the Greeks with the help of the Maccabees. Under new leadership, Israel prospers and restores former glory. But after some time, civil war erupts, and so begins the same old story. 63 BC, and here come the Romans. Jerusalem was captured and King Herod became their ruler. The Roman Empire would last a while, proving their worth. The period would lead to the time of Jesus' birth. To summarize these 400 plus years, they weren't all that terrible despite how it seems. The Jewish economy flourished if looking at the past along with politics, art, and all of that jazz. This period saw the emergence of politics. The Pharisees and Sadducees, what a lovely mix. They bickered and fought and they studied the law. They established the rules, became the government for all. Philosophy-wise, have you heard of Aristotle? If that wasn't enough, this period also had Socrates and Plato. The Jewish people picked up on all of this. Living in a Greco-obsessed world has this kind of influence. 400 years of silence, but the Jewish nation still thrives. People went on surviving and living their lives. So in a way, you could say that life was somewhat good. Being captive wasn't all that bad if you were a Hellenistic Jew. But one thing was missing during all of this time. No voice of God to act as a guide. Without God, nobody to turn to. Who do you come to when life is a mess? Who do you come to when you need to find rest? Follow the Pharisees? They seem to know the law. In the absence of a prophet, they even assumed the position of a god. Rules and guidelines based on opinion and tradition. Rather than seeking out God, they worked on creating a religion. Maybe the Sadducees, they were rich, they had connections. How about the Zealots? They were fighting for independence. So many choices, some of them tempting, but none of them are the answer, only leaving you lonely and empty. Israel needs a new leader, but there is none to be seen. They may have certain freedoms, but they aren't actually free. The nation needs someone to break the chains of their labor. The nation of Israel is in need of a savior. It was the time before Christmas, and all throughout the land, nobody was rejoicing. Tough times were at hand. The great nation of Israel, fallen from glory, waiting for a savior for the dawn of a new morning.